morning, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here today, and the energy that I can feel from this audience is unlike anything I've ever felt before. And I've never followed robots either, so this is a first for me. I first want to start by saying thank you for showing up today. I want us all to take a minute to think about why we did that. Why did you show up today? Just get one idea in your head, one sentence. Got it? Now just very quickly turn to your neighbor and say why you showed up today. Really quickly. This is starting to feel like more than one sentence going on here. Reel it in, ladies and gentlemen. When I first heard about the conversation around women in tech, it was a few years back in Denmark where I live. And I went to a few events. There weren't very many people there, and I couldn't really quite understand, what is this conversation about women in tech? Is it only for women? Are men supposed to come to this conversation? Is it for female founders of tech companies? Is it for women who code? And because I couldn't put my finger on exactly what the conversation was about, I kind of withdrew from it. I thought, this is just too mysterious for me. I don't think I get it. And as the years went by and I started seeing kind of the hashtag women in tech and reading things about it, I thought, no, there's something else going on with me that's making me not want to engage with this conversation. And I had a lot of reflecting I needed to do. And it actually went back further than I had expected, all the way back to my childhood. You see, when I was a little girl, I wasn't the same as the little girls around me. I didn't really fit in. And around the age of 12, one day I was at my brother's basketball practice waiting for him, and I grabbed his algebra book, and I just started completing the equations. And the next day, his teacher was like, wow, you're going ahead of the class. And he said, I didn't do that. It must have been my sister. So I was quickly recruited to the nerdiest club in the whole school called Math Counts, where I started traveling around competing with primarily boys that were about 2 to 5 years older than me at mathematics and winning. And I don't know why I was winning, because at the end of the math competitions, they would say, hey, did you use this formula and that formula? I said, no, I didn't use a formula. I'm really just guessing. I had never studied mathematics, and so I was kind of it just made sense to me. That's just how my brain was wired. So the robots are back. My senior year of high school, we had to take a test. This was back in the U.S., so I'm from the U.S. I'm from the south of the United States, a very rural part of the U.S. Okay, yeah. We got a fan. I'm happy. And we had to take a test that measured our intelligence to see what we should all be when we grew up. And then we all got to have a meeting with Mr. Wright, our guidance counselor. That was really his name. It's perfect for the story, really. And so I went into Mr. Wright's office to hear what I should be when I grow up. And he kind of leaned back in his chair and he said, yeah, I don't know, this test says that you should maybe be an engineer or something technical, but we all know that you can't do that. That's not what women do. And I know this is shocking, right? But this was back in the 90s, and I'm from the rural south of the United States, and actually nobody I knew thought that what he was saying was weird except me. I didn't have any role models that wanted women to do anything in their life besides raise children and get married, maybe go to college and look for a husband. So I took his advice. I said, well, what should I do? And I took his advice, and I went to university, and I studied the humanities. And I started studying literature and philosophy. At first, it was really weird, because my brain didn't work that way. I was more of a yes or no kind of person. And the more it perplexed me, the more it started to excite me. And I started finding opportunities in my brain that I hadn't previously explored, and started really enjoying the humanities. By the time I decided to go to graduate school, I wanted to find a happy medium between the humanities and mathematics, so I settled on linguistics, a really useful career path. Not. Don't do that. But I got an advanced degree in linguistics and started being a professor at a university, soon after which I became very bored and decided to get a real job in business. I wanted a business job. So I went and got a business job, and I'm sitting there. I was a customer service representative, and all the leaders, they sat around in these glass cubicles around the perimeter. And there was one woman that occupied one of these glass cubicles. And one day she came and she tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "Sarah, I want you on a project." What kind of project? A tech project. I don't know anything about that. She said, "That's okay. You get it. Come with me. You're going to do this." So that's when I started working with large tech projects for enterprises. About a year into that, my manager on my performance review told me that I understood how ERP systems work better than anybody he had ever met. And I started being recruited to travel the world and train on this system that we had been implemented, and eventually landed in Denmark, where I started building my career working in enterprise tech, where I work today. So Mr. Right wasn't really right about what I should do when I grow up. But in a way, the path that I took, all the diversions that I took, ended up becoming really meaningful to me. And even though my story probably isn't at all similar to your stories, and my interests maybe not the same as your interests, I've come to realize this is actually what makes the Women in Tech conversation so beautiful. Its breadth and abstraction are what make it beautiful. We don't all need to be here for the same reason. What matters is that we're showing up. And this conference had something written in the pamphlet that attracted me, and I have a feeling it attracted all of you. And that is, we need women in tech to build sustainable, human-centric innovations for a better future. I think that's something we can all unite around. Thank you. So today I want to share a few nuances around this particular sentence that I hope that you'll find interesting. And I'm going to take it through the sentence. So we'll start with sustainability. We'll also start with sustainability because without sustainable inventions and innovations, it doesn't really matter how cool they are, because we won't have a world to use them in. Now, everybody's talking about sustainability these days. In fact, I would venture to say there's no far enemy to sustainability. And by far enemy, I mean like a Disney villain, like a sea witch. There's nobody stroking their cat and evilly saying, "I don't want to be sustainable." But this is what makes it more difficult. This is what makes it more banal. Everybody's saying they're being sustainable. But when I look around, I see startup companies taking risks and being sustainable, but I don't see large corporations doing that. And I think that there's something more difficult about it, because the enemy of sustainability is a close enemy. It can be confused with business as usual. The near enemy of sustainability is business as usual, because when we go and we start talking in companies about what we want to do, we talk about two numbers. How much is it going to cost, and what are we going to make from it? And yeah, we have a sustainability department, and they're probably going to be doing some cool stuff. Nope. We need that to be part central to the conversation for how companies make decisions about what they do. And the interesting thing, how do we break that up? The difficult part of not having sustainable conversations in our boardrooms is groupthink. Now, groupthink sounds a little bit like collective intelligence, but it's actually the opposite. Yeah, and I know I'm in Sweden, so I'm in dangerous waters here, because you guys are very consensus-oriented, so I'm not going there. Groupthink happens when you have a homogeneous group, and somebody drops an anchor that this is the idea that we should go with, and then 80% of people kind of cluster around that idea because they don't want to be the weird one. Statistics say 20% of people probably are the weird ones, but a large majority of those don't want to speak up because they don't want to be perceived as the troublemaker, and maybe they're just too shy. They just don't really, they wonder, well, if my idea is so weird, then I should probably just be quiet. But that 20%, we need them into the conversation. So we need to find a way to tap into the collective intelligence of the group. Time and time again, surveys have shown, studies have shown that collective intelligence is greater than the sum of the individual intelligences of the people in the group. And interestingly enough, MIT has a department that focuses specifically on collective intelligence, and they were doing studies to try to figure out what makes a group more collectively intelligent than another. And they found a surprising thing on accident. They weren't looking for it. Guess what it was? How many women are on the team? I'm not joking. I was surprised when I found this myself. So the number of women directly correlates to how much a team is tapping into their collective intelligence. So that's the first point. We need to show up collectively to build sustainable solutions. The next point is about being human-centric. Now, this is a topic that I think has been the hardest for me to grapple with, and we're going to hear a lot about it today with the focus on getting more women in STEM. And as you can hear from my story, I've had to grapple with a lot of personal bitterness about my own relationship with STEM, the fact that I didn't get a chance. I'm in my 40s, I can go back to school, But I didn't get the chance to go on that path when I should have. And I'm bitter about it, and I've had to grapple with that. But when I put that to the side, and when I accept that, I also see in the tech space that we have too much of an obsession of the fact that all conversations around technology are technical. Because when you're deciding what to build and which problems you want to solve, those conversations are human. They're not technical. And now it's not a binary, it's not either or. But what I want to see in the world is that, we all go get our specializations. Women, please keep showing up. Please go get those STEM degrees, get the specialization. But don't leave the rest of your humanity at the door. Your complete self, the stories that are important to you, your ethical compass, these things that we study in the boring humanities subjects, these are things you carry with you. They're part of being human. And you shouldn't leave those at the door when you need to enter into a technical conversation. The whole technical space needs to become more human because technology is only here for humans. It is how we improve our life. Oh, thank you. So that the second point, to conclude that, we should show up completely. And the final point is about innovation, and that's my baby. I spent 3 years building a company focusing on biomimicry for innovation. This isn't an advertisement because my company didn't succeed, but but I'm really obsessed with the topic. And I think if you look at nature, you can see that the patterns of evolution are exactly the same as the patterns of innovation. Innovation is evolution. And if you look at the patterns of evolution, you see some interesting things that people don't often talk about. When we talk about innovation, we often talk about disruption. You've got to disrupt the status quo. Yes, and that's what pushes entrepreneurs, that's what pushes us. We're frustrated with the status quo, and we want to create something new, and that's fantastic. Keep doing that, please. Evolution needs variety. We need difference. We need people who are angry about the status quo. 70% of people in the world, according to the Harvard Implicit Bias Survey, still think math and science are men's business. So just by being in the conversation, we are the variety. We are the variety. If you're that weird 20% of people who have ideas that other people aren't talking about, you're the variety. Show up with that variety. But the second part of the recipe of evolution is the more difficult one. Evolution occurs when a variety is introduced and forms a synergistic relationship with the status quo. Hold up. So we're supposed to be disrupting, but we are supposed to be playing with the status quo? Unfortunately, yes, that is the reality of evolution. That means even if you have this great idea that's wild and amazing, you need to find a way to anchor it in something that already exists or that people already understand. And I'm speaking from experience. Just refer to that failed startup company I talked about a few seconds ago. But this is actually an evolutionary principle. So what I would encourage you to do is keep showing up with variety, with difference, but also keep finding ways to bring that variety and difference into a synergistic relationship with the status quo. And that is much easier to say than do. As a woman who's been working in tech for over 15 years, sometimes it gets really challenging to keep being there. Sitting in rooms full of men, I've spoken at conferences that have the exact opposite demographics of this one. And you're continuously feeling like you're different. You're continuously feeling like, why am I here? People are condescending to you. And it's hard, and you start blaming yourself. What's wrong with me? Why am I here? And that's hard. So I'm not trying to say to keep showing up at your own expense. But what I will say is to try not to blame yourself if you feel like that outsider, and try to find a way to center yourself around your truth and what you know is right, and keep showing up. So that is the three things are to show up completely, to show up collectively, and to show up centered. And I'm going to leave you today with a final story. I volunteer at the Danish Technical University, where I help teams of students bring ideas into life and build companies out of these ideas. And last semester, I was introduced to a teacher's assistant, and I got her job description, and it said, oh, you know, she can do administrative tasks for you and help book meeting rooms and things like that. But when I met the student, I realized, well, she's a student. She's a student in the School of Innovation and Design, and she's brilliant. And she started coming to the workshops with me, with the students, and I would ask the students hard questions, and then she would ask the students hard questions, really smart, really poignant questions. Eventually, I started kind of leaning back and thinking, I'm just going to let her ask the questions. She's really smart, and she's asking the perfect questions, and I admired her courage, because she didn't do what I've been doing after 15 years of having my questions deflected. She was bold and courageous, and she didn't care if the guys were saying, oh, no, that's technical. She just kept asking. It was wonderful, and I admired her. I went home to my husband, and I said, oh, the new generation, the young generation, they've got it going on, you know? She's half my age, and she's not afraid of anything. She just goes and asks her questions. So at the end of the semester, she called me up to thank me for the semester and to ask me if I could be her mentor. I was a bit surprised by this, because I thought she should be my mentor. And I said to her, I have to tell you, you know, I've been admiring your courage all semester, and I think really maybe you should be my mentor. I said, you ask the best questions, and you're not afraid to show up. And then she said something that took my breath away. She said, I'm only doing that because you're there. When you show up, you create effects and waves that you don't even know about. So thank you for showing up today, and let's make some waves. Thank you.